Here we got the transmission shaft coming to the front axle, and the upper link, this nasty flimsy plastic Y-link. If you're just having suspension going straight up and down both sides, there's no clearance problems, but if I flex the right hand side of the truck, you can see that's bashing right into that upper link there. Now I've contacted Axial technical support. They were really good and responsive, and they basically said, yeah, that happens, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but they will send out parts to convert this to a full link set, so that's good news. However, the Axial solution for that is basically going to be what's done at the back, which is this brace that screws onto the axle. Fit one of those at the front, and then you have your 2 pickup points for the upper links to go in. Problem with that is it moves you from having your servo plate mounted on 3 screws down to 2 screws, and I don't really want a flimsy servo mount point. So instead I'm going to go for some different front mounting. Centre link mount SCX10 looks like this. Screw onto the top of the axle, just above the pumpkin, and they give you your pickup points for your top links. Another day, another bit of progress on the links. So we're looking at the front links here, converting to 4 link, and I've fitted the level 3 RC bracket here. This is the centre link mount. It's bolted on over the pumpkin, as I think it's called. That went on fine. I'm using the long bolts that come in the set from level 3 RC. I think they're 30mm bolts. Now I'm using the longer ones because I'm actually doing a chassis mounted servo with this panhard bar to stop the side to side play on the axle. You don't have to fit this panhard bar for the 4 link set, so I won't talk about that. That's in a separate video if you're interested in chassis mounting your servo. There's a link up here. Anyway, right, so the actual mount is in place, ready to receive the 2 upper links. I've been working out the length, and I think I know roughly what I need, but before I do that for sure, I just wanted to give you a couple of tips. The first tip is you're going to have to take your servo out. If you want to fit the bolts on that attach the links down here, you can see where I'm getting my Allen key in. Now if I've got a servo in position, there's no way I can actually get that Allen key in, or Allen driver, so you need to take your servo out, which I've just done. Now the second thing is I'm trying to work out the right length of links, and I was trying to bring it up to the original hole here, where the Allen bolt will go through the rock bar mount, through the chassis. Now what I was finding was if I put this bolt in and screw it in the same as the back with the spacers, basically this bolt goes so far in that it's actually touching the bottom of the motor. This is the Novak ballistic motor. Now I've not got that in all the way, and just up here you may be able to see, just about there, if I flip it over you can't get a better angle, there's the screw, and it's just about to touch the motor there. If I keep going it's gonna, well, it won't actually go any further, it's gonna stop on the bottom of the motor. So the problem I've got here is that I can't use that hole. So what I'm doing...
What has Strider done to our minions?
I don't know. But we will find out.
Peeta, please be careful.
I've made a very slightly shorter link, and I don't like to say this, but I'm going to have to drill a hole through the chassis there. Now fortunately the rock bar mount, there's a little bit of a recess there, so I can actually hide that hole. The rock bar has a number of holes on it, so you can actually have it all the way in or bring it out hole by hole. Now if I bring it out by one additional hole, I've got a little void here where I can actually get the head of the screw in, so that'll be flush. Right, no turning back on this one. Right, just making a little indentation on the chassis there. That's my mark point where I'm going to drill. And then I'm drilling my chassis, so we're matching up on our centre punched point, and I'm eyeballing that the drill is square, the drill bit's square. Right, the holes are drilled now. Each side I've used a 2mm drill bit, and the position of the hole is about 8.2 millimeters ahead of the existing axial hole. You basically work that out, take your rock bar mount and position where that's going to go as normal, and the hole you drill, you want to go dead center of this tube where the rock bar mount goes in. So you can fit your rock bar mount on here, screw it on, and then what I did was take a center punch and then position the center punch straight through the hole there, and then there's your position. Okay, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to tap out this hole. So it's 2mm hole at the moment. I'm going to tap it with a 3mm thread so I can fit the existing axial screws in here. If you want to use a different screw, maybe one like this, it's got a shoulder on it, you might want to just drill that out straight with a 3mm drill bit. Right, so I'm just finishing off with the 3mm tap here. You can see this is now tapping a thread through the chassis into the new hole, and I can put the screw through. Now obviously we've just exposed some fresh metal on the chassis rail there. That's a rust opportunity. It's probably not the end of the world. You could dab a bit of grease on that when the screw goes through, but because I'm trying to make this a bit of a perfect build, I'm going to use a product here called Cure Rust. It's a metal rust treatment, and although there's not rust there at the moment, there could be in the future. So a little dab of Cure Rust on there will make a protective barrier. You could paint the hole, I guess, if you wanted to. I'm just going to let that dry, and I can put the screws through. I nearly forgot to say, important thing on the link lengths for the front upper links. Now in this setup here, I've got the level 3 RC chassis mounted servo bracket fitted, and you can see as I bring the axle up, it's going up and down there, that's fine. Now we've got the original posts here for in the plastic casting for the axle, and there's, I'm trying to get the right camera angle so you can see this. If I go in there, there's the post just there, and that post is obviously going to come up as the axle and the suspension compresses. Now depending on your orientation of the axle, which is going to be affected by how long your upper links are, this is how the axle is kinked that way or the other way, that's going to affect where that post is. Is that post like this, or is that post like that? Now if it's too far that way, as the suspension comes up, you can see here, if these posts here and here, if that's kinked up too far, it's going to come up and the post actually knocks on the panhard bar and your suspension will hardly travel. So you need to make sure your links are long enough to push the axle forwards to clear the front of the panhard bar. However, if they're too long, then you're going to get the mount for the upper links again touching on the panhard bar. So you've effectively got a slot here in front of the mount for the links, and behind these two upper posts is where you need the axle to sit, and then it will go up and down and everything fits nicely. So you can see here, this bit has got to sit in front of there and behind there. So the length of the front upper links is really crucial. That's what I'm currently working out. Top links at the front are done. Right, how did I do it? Well, I pulled my hair out quite a lot to do it, to be honest with you. It did take quite a long time. So let me take you through some of the pitfalls that I had on the front, and then I'll give you a summary of the overall 4-link conversion process. Right, first of all, you might have noticed on this that there is this servo now mounted on the chassis, and this thing here called a panhard bar. I've been mounting that while I was doing the 4-link, but there's a separate video on that. Now, first of all, putting the top links on, you need the mount bracket. This is the level 3 RC bracket that mounted on, no problem at all. 2 screws through the axle, and they're fitted on. That's the nylock nuts from the kit, and then the Allen bolts themselves are some black M3 by 30mm bolts I had out of an HPI kit, purely just because they're black and they don't show up so much. No problem at all. Then I worked out some approximate links, built those and tried to fit them. That's when the fun and games began. Now the level 3 RC kit comes with these aluminium spacers to bring the links away from the chassis so they don't bind on the chassis. And also I've noticed another reason is because if you don't have them, you see here on your radio box, this has a little bracket here that goes down onto the frame. You can maybe see it underneath just there. Now if you don't move these upper links away enough, when the suspension compresses, the link will actually touch on that. So okay, got to put the spacers on here. So what I first of all did was put this in, and same problem as with the back, the level 3 RC screw is not quite long enough because it's going through the rock bar mount. So I ended up putting half of a level 3 RC spacer on there. That's about a 4mm spacer effectively, and another 2mm axial one. That's one of those, what part number is that? Oh, I don't know, it's in the description. 2mm spacers. That works fine on this side, that's the right side of the truck. Down we go. That's a straight ball joint there, going down onto a 70mm link. That's the Axial AX90027 7x70mm post grey. Connected onto down here, we've now got a 20mm post AXA1421, and then fitting on down onto the level 3 RC mount with another straight ball joint link. No problem, that's one side done. Happy days, I thought. Then I got to doing the other side. Couldn't do what you're supposed to do. Now you go through the the rock bar mount there. Can't do it with my model. You might be able to with yours, but you see the bolt would come through here and it actually was hitting the motor. Now I don't know if that's just because this Novak ballistic 13.5 turn motor is particularly long or not. I don't think it is. Anyway, the long screw that you need to fit to get the spacer in just won't fit there. So what I had to do, I took off the rock bar mount, and then on the chassis where this rock bar mount meets, I drilled a hole. I drilled a 2mm hole and then tapped it out to 3mm. And then I've put another screw in here. It's just another black axial 30mm screw, and I've put in there the level 3 RC spacer, and then just about there you can see that hopefully, and then there's an axial 2mm spacer, and then a straight pickup ball joint, and that goes onto a different length rod. Not quite happy about this, but I've got different length rods on each side. This is now a 60mm rod here, which is axial part number AXA1429 7x60mm rod, going onto a 20mm rod at the end, and then the same fixing at the front. So what we've ended up with is rods of different length, because I couldn't mount on the same position on the left hand side of the truck as the right. Overall though, in reality it doesn't seem to make any difference. Articulation wise, I can go right up to the bump stops on the shock absorbers, and I'm not getting any binding up problems. And the problem we had originally, which is why I did this 4-link at the front, with the drive shaft mount hitting the nasty horrible Y-link there. You can see now if I push here, you can just see that the links are absolutely miles away from the drive shaft in every position, everywhere. So it was a struggle, but it's now done. You folks are lucky, I hope, insofar as if you look in the description for the video, I've put all the part numbers and hopefully a reasonable stab at some instructions how to do this. So just to summarise what we've got then, at the back, took the original plastic upper links, which, you know, they work okay, they're just a bit flimsy, they bend quite easily, and we've replaced those with the axial solid rods. That's the 6x98mm rods, and they fit very nicely onto the level 3 RC bracket, and there's no binding problems whatnot at all. And you've seen in the earlier part of the video I had to do some fiddling around with the spacers there because of the length of the bolts. Back's fine, front was complicated as I've just explained, but now it's done. Very happy with it, it's nice and secure. With the pan hard bar, which is a separate thing, but I've noticed you don't get any waggle at all side to side. On the back I do have a bit of waggle. I think that's probably normal. I'm hoping that's a good thing. If you're driving along and you hit a rock, you know, the back axle can shuffle out the way of the rock a bit and hopefully not upset the whole truck. If that waggle is completely weird, please do post in the comments. I'd like to know. This is my first SCX10. If you're interested in the chassis mounted servo and the panhard bar, there's a separate video for that which you can have a look at. Hope this has been useful for you folks. Any questions, pop them in the comments, and do have a look at the description if you want a parts list. Thanks for watching.